Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name's Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by a full complement of chaps, Sambo and Johnny. How are we?
Bloody good.
Good. Doing pretty well. A minor cold, but doing well.
It's all right. But we've got, the good thing is, better to get it out of the way now. You've got 2 weeks before the prelim final, so we think you'll be good on the injury report.
With our track record at the moment, I will have had 3 more colds by the time that.
The immune system copping an absolute battering here at the end.
Do we need to paint a red cross on your door just so people are aware that you've got the cold at the moment?
That's right. Yeah.
Stay away.
Keep them away. No one visits me, John. That's all right.
It's the way you want it, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. It's totally manageable cold. I just can't believe I think this is the first time ever in my life that I've had 2 colds like less than 2 weeks apart. Rare for me to get 2 colds in a year, let alone 2 like a week apart.
I ain't spending any time on it because in the meantime, every 3 months, a person is torn to pieces by a crocodile in North Queensland.
I'll whinge about it for as long as I want, Colin.
Like Colin, like not the person to be offering perspective as he pens the 4th draft of his indie horror pitch for A24. Get a life, Colin. We're out here. Sambo's out here in the real world of the working man, toiling away.
The podcast
through thick and thin.
Yeah,
that's right.
Definitely.
All right, let's get into it. There's a big show to get to tonight, chaps. We've waited. It's the best part of a week since the games happened. Really, it was Thursday night, but tonight's recap rather. The Cats v Power qualifying final recap. We're going to get into all of that. Consider this, although it's 5 days later, it's a lovely little girthy after dinner mint. I was going to say it's a lovely little after dinner mint, but it's really not. This is going to be at least like an hour long. So get ready for that. We're going to recap all of that sweet action from the Adelaide Oval. Then we're going to pop over to Patreon and we're going to discuss the other 3 finals. What happened? Which games did we get eyes on? How did we feel about the teams? How do we feel about, who we might face? And maybe who we would prefer to face in the prelim, likely grand final opponents and all that sort of stuff. So if you want to hear that part of the show, as per usual, go on over and sign up for a 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon. The last bit of business we've got to get into is to say a massive thank you to our media network sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist. They've jumped on for the AFLW season, the AFL Men's Final Series, and already signed on into 2025. The union is strong. Go on over to www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. That's Cook with an E. Give them a bell on 035 222 2244. Or if you want to make use of our relationship with Cyril Cook Florist in the form of a little discount, go on over and visit their location. It's Shop 12, 11 Leather Street in Breakwater. Say that the Hoops Crew sent you and you will get 20% off your next in-store purchase. Support the businesses that support us. We thank them for their backing of the Hoops Crew Media Network. Chaps, it's time. It's time to bask in one of the all-time, perhaps, results for the Cats. There was much talked about going into this. The Cats on the road in Adelaide, record in, finals, interstate, not that good. A lot of people I saw, not just your regular puffed up footy morons, but some of your more brainiac style folks, with their models and their data analytics saying the Cats are going to get toasted here. 10 goal margins, etc. Well, Geelong, thankfully, they must have had bad mobile reception on the way over. I mean, you can't send a text message from Incardinia Park. So they had no idea what the game script was meant to be. And they turned up and they totally flipped the script. This is how it went, just to refresh your memory. Chaps.
Please
Cats
do.
opened strong. The first 2 goals of the game, Tyson Stengel and Jeremy Cameron. I believe it was a soccer. If I can stretch my memory that far back to Tyson Stengel. And then one of the more extraordinary bending goals from the boundary from Jeremy Cameron. Go out and check the video that was floating around YouTube of all the different radio broadcasts of the Cameron goal. Another one nearly from the car park, Chaps. Port responded with Ryan Burton after 7.5 minutes, but the Cats, a very quick response via the boot of Sean Manor, who was absolutely everywhere. There were behinds, one to Mark Blixarves, one to Brad Close, and one rush. The Port Power had a couple of behinds as well. The Cats conceded goals to Georgiadis and Jason Horne-Francis. That reduced the margin to a slim 3 points. The Cats, 3-7-25 to 3-4-22 at quarter time. Questions were asked where I was watching. Have we squandered our chances here? How's it going to go? I think we were all pretty confident, Johnny. I think I said to you on the night, I think it balances out. You know, if you kick 3-7 in one quarter, you might just kick 7-3 the next. Cats, the first goal of the second term to Tyson Stengel. Port looked to respond and potentially take control of the match. Goals to Willie Rioli. And then Jed McEntee put them up and about and in front. However, that was the last time they would hit the front. It was the last time they would really be within striking distance of the Cats, because Geelong would not be denied. The goals started to flow. Jack Bowes, Oliver Henry in the space of a couple of minutes. Port kept us at bay for a little while, but then there was more damage to come. Goals to Tyson Stengel, to Brian Myers and Jeremy Cameron right before halftime. It was Port who got the last goal of the first half through Connor Rosé, but that just narrowed the margin to 20 points. The Cats went in up 9-9-63 to 6-7-43, and they were ruthless after halftime. It was 11 goals, 9 to 1 goals, 5 after the halftime break. The Cats, Jack Bowes, Sean Manor, Tanner Bruin, Shannon Neal, and Sean Manor all kicking a goal in the third term as the Cats nailed on 5 goals, 7 unanswered. It was 2 points for Port, but, 2 points isn't really much of an answer. They got the first goal of the final term to Brian Myers. Port managed a goal to Jace Burgoyne early on, but then the Cats, they did what they want. They finished hard. They did not put the cue in the rack. They wanted to send a message. We are the danger. It was goals to Brian Myers, to Tyson Stengel, to Jeremy Cameron, and Jeremy Cameron again. And the final one of the night to Shannon Neal as Geelong run out 138 to 7-12-54 winners. They sang it before the game, Sambo, never tear us apart. It's meant to be a statement. It ended up being a pleading request. Geelong, they tore them up. I'll go to you, Sambo, here first. You didn't get to pod with us last night, so unload some of your thoughts on us. What were your takeaways from the game?
Yeah, it was pretty ruthless. It was a glorious, glorious game to behold, really. Yeah, I think I didn't watch it with you guys, obviously, because I was keeping my germs away. Germs 0.1 was kept away. I think, or maybe it was just the kids. Anyway,
It was just the kids at that
Oh, that's
point.
right. The kids were sick at that point, so we didn't do our normal group catch up. So I watched on my own, but I think my feelings pretty much mirrored yours. There was a little bit of a we look good, but I hope this conversion rate doesn't sort of come back to bite us. And then the second term obviously was a bit more, or like part of the second term was a bit more of an arm wrestle. Looked a little bit like I had thought the first quarter might look. But I still felt, reasonably confident. As you guys said, it does generally balance out. Especially if you don't have a history of bad kicking, if you're a team that's in form of not being able to convert set shots or whatever, there's no real there's no real data to suggest that it's going to continue. But with the Cats, you're kind of like, this feels quite quite out of the ordinary. So it didn't really feel like it would continue all night. And it certainly didn't. It certainly got better. But yeah, it's funny to look at what the score could have been. Obviously, you can't just take all the behinds and turn them around, but there weren't many rushed ones, and a lot of our missed ones were like easy, easy set shots. So I think the expected score is probably, I haven't looked at it, but I imagine it's quite a bit higher. But um, I don't have any like real narrative to my thoughts, but I'm just sort of spewing them out as they pop up. But one of the things is this. For the 5 minutes that the media actually did talk about Geelong after the game, before they moved on to everybody else for the for the preceding week, for the 5 minutes they did talk about it, the one soundbite that I kept hearing was, even the most die-hard Geelong fan wouldn't have seen this coming. Even the most one-eyed Cats fan wouldn't have seen this coming. Get stuffed. Do not underestimate our one-eyedness. You think so little of us and our bias, but
Yeah.
I literally had a conversation leaving work to head to home to watch the game with a another footy head that I work with, and she asked if I was nervous, and I said not really nervous at all, because I think this game it's within Geelong's control, so it didn't really feel like a thing to be nervous about. It felt like it was ours to win, and if we lost it, it was because we didn't deserve it. We didn't play the way we needed to play. And she said, "Oh, I think it'll be a good game." And I said, "I don't think it will be, actually." I said, I don't see this being within a couple of kicks. And I think I can't remember what margin I put in the tipping, but I felt like it was going to be big-ish. I definitely didn't put it this big. And often with the margins in the tipping, I just get lazy and sick of right, like pushing the margin up, so I end up tipping everything around about 15 points or something. But I said if Port are allowed to do what they did last time, I said I think they could actually run away with it in the final, in the third term maybe, and put us to bed early. But I said if we can break even in the middle, if we can stop their direction switching, if we have structures on and we can stop their lateral kicking and their build up, I said I think we could easily, absolutely wipe the floor with them, and we did. So
You
just to say, to all the media out there, we absolutely are one-eyed and biased enough to have seen this coming. And the other thing that I think is really impressive, because everybody also, I don't know if you guys have listened to much stuff. Haven't listened much throughout the year, but during the finals, because there's less of the sort of football on, even including, with the AFLW on, it's such a short season. There's so little football, so I'm trying to soak up as much as I can of the coverage of both the W and the M. What was it, Jake? The Wonderful and the Magnificent. And it is quite not surprising to me, but it's quite interesting how all the coverage is about how poorly Port performed. And I understand that they were pretty shocking for long stretches. But I think if you look to the first half and the first half, I would say Port were actually playing Port football. Like, they were attempting to keep up with us. I think we were the better team still by a long way in the first half. But I actually think the encouragement I take from this game comes mostly from that first half, not so much the second half, where I think we could just pick our score, and they kind of did turn into witches' hats a little bit. But in that first half, they really tried to keep with it. They tried to move some things around. They tried to stem the flow. They tried to hit us out of the middle. They moved Jason Horne-Francis around. I don't know why they started on the bench. I will agree that was weird. But I think they actually did play pretty well by their standards, and Geelong just would not let them have that game. We took it away from them. We nullified their weapons, and we absolutely obliterated them in their weaknesses. So I thought it was a complete performance, probably the best. I think you even said it at halftime, as early as halftime, Jake. I feel like you said this might be the best I've seen us play all year. But I think it's probably the most complete performance of football, bar the kicking efficiency that I've seen from any team this year. And I don't give a shit that it's biased. It's a Geelong football podcast.
I think
that's why we're here.
I think that was the best Geelong Cats football performance since one that happened in late September, early October 2022.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I don't think
And
we've played a four
absolutely.
quarters that good since the grand final.
No, and I don't think we would have played many 4 quarters that good in that year prior to the grand final, because I also think the grand final was our best performance of 2022.
The
We're built.
Brisbane game would come close.
Brisbane game was really good.
Prelim final.
I mean, we had great games. Even the final against Collingwood was a really good. Was a good game.
Definitely.
But just as far as post to post, bounce to siren performance, I think that was complete. The last thing I will say is just in the interest of being completely transparent and not claiming to have seen it coming and we know all. When I did see the thing about Tom Stewart, I did have about 15-20 minutes of panic. I did go out. I was on my way home when I saw it, and I got home and I made the joke about being the Ben Affleck outside smoking gif. That was my energy, and I actually did go outside, like literally sat outside for a tick, just to kind of go, like to hang my head, and then thought through it, and I was like, no, we're all right, we're okay. We basically played Port without Tom Stewart last time because of the tag on him. They were expecting to have Tom Stewart. We've got so many players that are in a much better wicket than they were earlier in the year. Tom Stewart is an immense player and a superstar, but yeah, before the actual bounce, and certainly after about the first 2 minutes of the game, I was back on track with just kind of going, okay, they've got this. This is totally fine.
Yeah. Sambo rolls up home, immediately goes outside, and the kids like toddle out and go, Dada. It's like the first time they've ever seen their father emotionally distressed, tears streaming down the face. It's all right, sons. It's going to be okay. And he composes himself. What a warrior. 21st century warrior stuff. Right.
Sometimes, I gave him a little life lesson. Sometimes you lose your Tom Stewarts, but sometimes you've got your Sean Manners, so it's okay.
Sometimes you got your O'Sheen Mullen. Johnny, piggyback on anything Sam said. Offer anything else that you've got brewing away in the old noggin. What are your thoughts reflecting on this game?
First off, it's I'll just name a few players that were not part of Cats 2022 Premiership or Finals or any part of 2022 season. That is Manor, Humphreys, Bruin, Bowes, Dempsey, Oliver Henry, Shannon Neal, and O'Sheen Mullen. So these are players that didn't play a part in finals in 2022. They all came to the club after the finals, had 1 year to adjust to the Cats, learn the Cats' way, except Sean Manor. He came in, and Lawson Humphrey, so they came in this year. So this is like nearly half the team changed from the 2022 Premiership, and they come out and put them a 4-quarter performance like that, and prove every single person yet again how wrong and stupid they are for ever doubting these Cats team. And this was just one of those performances where you just look back at it and go, that was just an absolute team effort. You can't really go to one player and go, that player like Dangerfield was the biggest reason why we won, or Cameron was the biggest reason we won.
The media is trying to say exactly that, John.
Yeah, they're trying. But you can't say Dangerfield was the most impactful player in the night, because I don't think he was. I don't think there was one player that you could single out and say they had the biggest impact on the game, because I thought the entire team was just on such a even level, like knowing what each other needed to do, backing each other in, and it's just a pleasure to watch that performance unfold. And yeah, it was Jake and I were talking at, I think it was halftime, and Jake just mentioned, I hope Port don't do what St Kilda did to us when we faced them late in the season. And I was like, well, it doesn't feel like Port's got anything left. And they weren't showing signs of fighting back like St Kilda were. And they didn't. It was just like a complete, utter demolition from halftime. And it was just a glorious thing to behold. This team just absolutely tearing one of the so-called premiership favourites to pieces and tearing them apart. Like their fan base is now tearing itself apart over the coach, over the team, over the culture and all that. Like they're so hilarious that the slogan is "Never tear us apart," but it feels like they're so apart from each other of what the club's about, what the fans are about, and what even the players are about. It's like it's crazy. But enough of the poor Port Power struggling so poorly in finals. It was just this time. I wasn't nervous going into this game. I don't know why. I just thought we're either going to win big or it's going to be close or they're just going to beat us. And so what? We'll move on to whoever will be after that. But I never really doubted that we would lose. I was just very confident that we could get through this, get to another prelim, and feeling pretty confident about whoever we face in the prelim. This team has this performance has boosted the confidence hugely. Just because it was that 4-quarter performance, and Jack, good friend Jacko, asked me, would I want them to aim for the 100 points? I said, no, I don't think I need them to go for 100 points. I said, if they just get to 80 points and then sort of take the foot off the lever pedal and cruise to there, and if Port get a few cheap goals towards the end, I wouldn't mind that, even if they get it back to like 30 points. Like they got to 80 points and they still didn't relent. And that was one of the most pleasing things I think I saw tonight was the Cats just did not give up. They did not let Port Adelaide get a sniff, get a chance after halftime. They just kept that foot firmly in place and did not let them have any say in that game.
It did have a real sense of like, there's this talk all year from Scotty and all the guys and theorizing that about management and being cautious and being careful and playing the long game and all that kind of stuff. And it's obviously true, but throughout the year, you never get the proof that is what's happening. But I think that game really felt like the proof of like, okay, the foot's off the brake now. Like that we're not managing anything now. Dangerfield wasn't managing his minutes. They couldn't tear him off the ground in the final quarter. We weren't thinking about, let's not score too much. Let's lock down in the third quarter and coast through. This was the reason we've made all those decisions all year.
Let's put a statement to the rest of this competition, to the rest of these teams that don't underestimate us. Underestimate us at your own peril, and you'll get burnt badly. And yeah, there's just a mastermind that Scotty is, not showing his full hand throughout the season, not showing his full set of cards until finals, until teams are like, oh, how are we going to combat this? And to be fair, it's going to be tough to beat this Cats team. They're looking really good. They're looking sharp. They're looking focused. They were looking together. It was like that all-in group thing of just going, what's the goal? Win. And we're going to win this way.
Win big.
And they went out there. They went and played the way Scotty told them to play. And they won. And everyone's going, you can't give Chris Scott 2 weeks to plan. It's like, no. You can't even give him 1 week to plan in finals, I don't reckon.
I was just going to say, I remember hearing a quote from the New England Patriots at one point that apparently they have this way of thinking about playoffs, or for us finals, that you know, when finals start, it's like a group of aeroplanes soar into the sky. So that's for us. Eight teams take off in their fighter jets, and a month later, one team will land, and everyone else crashes in the ocean and burns. And that's kind of how it feels. And it's brutal. It's brutal because from here, like, and I do want to get back to discussing this game in its intricacies. But I said before the season, if we make the 8, tick. If things go really well, we make the 4. That'd be a big tick from me. And look, then we give it a shake in finals. But the main, like my benchmark was compete for finals. And if things go really well, you go top 4 and you see what happens. So the season is a massive tick for me already if I'm comparing it to where we started off the year. But let's be honest, we have just put ourselves and Sydney in an incredible box seat. The Cats and the Swans, 2 wins away from a flag. And so that metaphor came to mind of like, there are currently 6 planes left in the sky. 2 of them are going to get shot down next weekend, and then there'll be 4. We're still flying. And how bloody good is it to be in one of those last 4 planes? Again, we're here. And it will absolutely suck ass if we lose the prelim, because that's what it feels like in finals now. Now it's there. It's right there. But I do want to say, how good is it to be here?
I don't get... No, I do understand why opposition fans always give Cats fans shit about, when we always get to a prelim, but we never make a grand final. And I go, well, it's obvious you're just extremely jealous that your subpar team can't make finals or prelims as much as we do. Like, I'd rather make a prelim. Yeah, there's a 50% chance we're going to lose it, but there's also that 50% chance we're going through to a grand final. And the only way you get that 50% chance is being there. And this team's given us 13 opportunities. Yes, they're not having all paid off, but that doesn't matter. We're still there. We're still getting that
4 of them
experience.
did.
We're still... Yeah, 4 of them did. But we're still getting that experience. We're still getting that idea of what it's like to play in finals for all these young players who go on to the next year going, that sucked. How can we improve to get better so we can take that next step? So it's not just about, we didn't make the grand final. Our team's no good as well. Our team made a prelim. We're pretty bloody good. That were one of the last 4. And we got a 50% chance of getting to a grand final, and then 50% chance of winning a grand final. And if it doesn't happen,
I'd say we've got a better chance of both.
I definitely agree. I'm just putting that there. But yeah, definitely agree. Like, I'm still very confident that we can, like you, Sam, like you said all those weeks ago, we can still win it. And I'm the same. I'm getting that 2022 sense of we're bloody good. We're bloody good. And
I think
it's going to take something tough.
I think we've lined everything up really well. But I think you're right. Like, I think basically what you're both sort of saying, and the thought I had, which I think is along the same lines, is just that, and it's so obvious to say, but it's really bloody hard to win the AFLM grand final. Like, to play well enough, consistently enough weeks, and still get the luck and the rub of the green and everything to get enough wins to put yourself into the 8. And then from the 8 to then win the finals and get to the grand final and win it. And so, like, I think it's really tough, and the toughest parts are still to come in a lot of ways. But I think the positive thing about the whole prelim, and sort of like you're saying, John, about the 50% chance kind of stuff, like, of all the teams that have been doing it hard all year to get here, us and Sydney have put ourselves in the easiest of those positions. So it's still really hard, and anything could happen, and we could crash and burn. But we are, statistically in the in the one of 2 of the best seats in the house at the moment. And that's not come from luck. You know, and it hasn't just come from Dangerfield or one man, or
No.
it hasn't even just come from Chris Scott either. That's the other thing that's annoyed me. This, you know,
The
the
list's crap.
certain media people that I won't mention talking about it going like basically it was said in pretty much these exact terms. Geelong's like a lot of the teams in the competition are superstar players with average coaches, and Geelong is a superstar coach with average players, and that made me that made me pretty mad. Like Chris Scott is the
But
best in the business for sure, but
yeah,
he doesn't get there without these players. Like, yeah,
it's
it's so
it's
frustrating that people are trying to take it away in any way and
well,
kind of undermine it and go, oh yeah, but Hawthorn's doing it on the back of their players or whatever. Like, yeah,
but that's such a silly thing to say because yes, in their mind they may be average players, but what happens when these so-called average players turn into superstars? And you've got the greatest coach in the AFL coaching these superstars. Does that mean we're going to become unstoppable and win 5 grand finals in a row? Oh,
yeah,
absolutely love it. That'll be amazing. But the fact is, no, and even if they are average, shouldn't you be going, look at what this team is doing with a group of so-called average players? They've
yeah.
made a prelim with average players with
And
a
that, I mean, to be fair,
midfield
that is
that's
what they're saying, but I
yeah,
still think it's
that's they should
reductive.
be yeah, it is very it's like because all these names like I wouldn't say Max Holmes, Manor, Myers, Humphreys are all average players. I think they're fantastic players.
Well,
As
do you know who I think it was Champion Data's like they do their player rating. Do you know the highest player of the round, including
yes, I do.
every team?
I do know.
You know who it is, Jake?
Yeah, I know who it is.
Sean Manor.
Sean Manor.
Sean Manor.
Not Isaac Heaney. And I mean this is
No.
one of those things where it was Nathan Buckley was also talking about it and kind of going like obviously like it's not to take anything away from Heaney and he did some spectacular stuff. But I think it just goes to show the culture at Geelong because
Yep.
that's what this culture does. We don't have superstars out there just trying to do it for themselves. Like we've got a couple. We've got Jeremy Cameron and that kind of stuff. But we have players who are not average players, as in they're not average skilled players. They're just humble and they're out there for the club. They're not out there for themselves. They're not even just out there for the team. They're out there for the club in my opinion. And so I think that's why it looks like these are elite footballers. They're not average players. They are some of the best of the best. They're just not grabbing headlines because that's what morons do. Not pointing at
I
anyone in
think
particular, but
I think I was listening to the radio on the way home and listening to a certain interview with young Shannon Neal, and they asked him about Tom Hawkins and him coming back in, and what would he think about that? And he goes, "Well, at the end of the day, I know I'm going to get chances later on. Tom Hawkins is retiring. He's basically saying if Hawkins is fit and firing, and he gets replaced by Hawkins, it's like, well, that's for the good of the team. It's not about me personally. It's not
he
about
literally said we're here
my
for the
glory.
win.
We're here for the win." And it just goes back to exactly what you said there, Sam. It's that culture of being humble, of going, it's not about me. It's about this team. What can we do as an individual for this team? And I really thought highly of Shannon Neal in that interview. He spoke really well, and just when he said that, I was like, yeah, he's completely bought into the way the Cats to conduct themselves. It's not about one player. It's not about Dangerfield. It's not about Cameron. It's about this club. And what can you do for this club?
I'll just bring our attention to this. I agree with everything you've just said there, chaps. But it was like to me, people had amnesia about how the game back in round 9 played after about the 10-minute mark of the second quarter. Port Adelaide had kicked 11 goals up to the 9-minute 44-second mark when Kane Farrell goaled. Right? That was their 11th of the game. They'd only kick 4 more for the night. To that point, Geelong had kicked 3. We would go on to kick another 11. In the second half, we outscored them 9 goals to 3. And Jason Horne-Francis got shut down. He's now, you don't ever fully shut a player like him down. And I actually have to say, I did feel a certain amount of empathy towards him on Thursday night, because at times I felt like he was the lone hand where he would do something really impressive or spectacular, despite O'Shane Mullen wearing him like a glove, and he would just, his good work would sort of come undone as he tried to, rightly bring his teammates into it. I did feel sorry for him a little, not a heap, but a little. But yeah, it was like people forgot about that second half. They're just talking about, oh, well, Geelong, they don't have the midfield to go over to Adelaide. And no Dangerfield, no Tanner Bruin, no Jack Bowes when we last played them. Now, Jack Bowes wasn't picked last time against them, but still add in the fact that it was Bruin and Danger, who I think statistically would be our 2 biggest clearance winners. Add to that the fact that O'Shane Mullen didn't start that game, but once he was brought in, he severely impacted what Port were able to do around the ball, because he's not the same level of footballer that JHF is, but he is a very comparable athlete in terms of his speed and strength and power. And that was something that we got exposed in early last time against them, that they were able to escape. So there was that. There was the fact that Lawson Humphreys was in the side. There was the fact that Sean Manor was in the side. Like, there were all these things, and I just couldn't believe that people were going, you're going to go over there and you're going to get obliterated. When you looked at how the rest of that game played out, 36 minutes in the first quarter, and 10 minutes of the second quarter. And after that, we controlled that game for large stretches. And so, yes, I didn't pick a margin of 84 points, but I really did feel if we went in and did what we asked them to do in the previews, to remind people, it was things like restrict the amount of space and run that they could create around the stoppages. Last time they spread away from the stoppage so ruthlessly. They beat us 48-39 in the clearances last time out. In terms of uncontested possession, they had 220 to our 166. You fast forward that to this time, and we beat them 40-36 in clearances, and we beat them 229 to 154 in uncontested possessions. We had 108 marks. Last time we only had 66. Like, we went and executed all of the things that we thought we would have to do. And I thought it was interesting, Sambo. I don't know if you caught his pre-match little presser interview, but Chris Scott was very forthright and I noticed the broadcast made mention of it. Like, this is what we think you do, and this is what we're going to do. And we think if we do that, to sort of paraphrase and maybe flower up the language a bit, but you can break them. And that's what they went and did.
It's supreme confidence, that, isn't it? To kind of go and
call your shot.
To go there's nothing they can do about it at this point, especially like that late in the piece right before the game. It's kind of like at that point the chessboard's set and you just let it run. Which again is why it comes down to the team and Chris Scott. I think Chris Scott work was done prior to the game. He had set it all up. And then, you can't win that game without those players executing the way they did. Those average players.
Yeah. Those average players.
Mediocre average Joes.
Well,
the pressure is insane.
Average Joes.
Don't
in a prelim.
Yeah. What did you guys think? Because I know our tackle number isn't actually huge. I think it was 47 tackles, but I think we laid 22 or something in the first quarter. And obviously it opened up for us a bit in the second half, but I thought the pressure we applied it sort of melted them.
It's sort of like how I sort of view a certain other team is, if you let Port Adelaide play the way they want to play, they look really good. They look fantastic because they're getting on the terms. It's like basically for any other team. But if you just apply a little bit of pressure on this Port Adelaide team, they just crumble into a heap, and they don't know how to get back up. They don't know how to reform and toughen up and get ready for round 2. And you could see that Thursday night. They were all right for the first half, but it was like they were just going, oh, they're not going to be able to keep up this pressure the whole game. So when they slack off, we're going to be here to pounce and make ourselves look good. And the Cats just never relented. That pressure was just immense, and it wasn't that wasted pressure that we talked about during the season, where it was like 2-3 players going to the one player. It was 2-3 players going in the vicinity of that one player, and when he would handball it, there was a player there to either tap it or apply instant pressure to the guy who received it. And it just was relentless, and it was just constant all night. And that was the most pleasing thing. And it wasn't just certain players; it was every player was applying that pressure and getting in on it. Stanley was applying the pressure in the ruck. He was beast mode. Reece Stanley, like, I think that was by far one of his best rucking performances I've seen in a long time. I thought he's looking fit, strong, and his presence was immense. But yeah, that going back to that pressure, yeah, it was just unreal. And it was bloody brilliant to see them unite as a team and go, we're not going to give you a second to think about what you're going to do.
Yeah, it's talking about the tackles, like the tackle numbers, aren't necessarily that high, but I think it's that pressure, as in like just making things contested. And that comes from the structure as well. Talking about the things we wanted to see last week, being in position where you need to be to not let them get those uncontested possessions. They were down like 50 plus uncontested possessions on their season average. So I think it's that. It's not necessarily just like a smashing tackle, like a bruising tackle to try and get a holding the ball call. It's like just being there constantly, not letting them have time to think about it, like you were saying, John. And I think that's the pleasing thing, and something that probably doesn't get sort of looked at enough is the idea of pressure that isn't just tackles. Or even it's even like pressure acts, really. Like it's kind of just being in position, so when they get the ball, they don't have a clear avenue anywhere.
It's crazy to look at the tackles inside 50. We had 7, and they had 17 inside 50. That's
it's tough. Yeah,
you don't see a scoreline like that with the team losing by this much with more tackles inside 50. So yeah,
I thought that was
Cats.
I thought that was something that really impressed me was Geelong's ability, like the back line. We'll get into our votes in a minute. I don't know how many people had someone from the back line represented, but I thought that when the game was hot, Geelong's back line did an exceptional job repelling Port Adelaide, like whether it was in high, whether it was in low. Zach Guthrie, Jack Henry, Jake Kolodjasny, the three of them, and Lawson Humphreys as well was pretty spectacular too. The way he used the ball.
Does Lawson Humphreys receive pressure?
No.
No, he doesn't. He's
actually legally blind for opposition players. He kicks so well because he can only see Geelong players. He can't see the opposition at all.
Doesn't even know they're there, John.
I didn't think so.
No,
I was just making sure that I was seeing the same thing you guys are
saying.
Flow
state.
He's a total freak. And just on the tackles, and then I reckon we should do our votes and then just talk about a couple more players and then get out of here. The tackle numbers are funny because, you'd think in a game where Geelong applies heaps of pressure, maybe someone's got a massive number. Now, like Brian Myers has 6, Sean Manor has 5. That makes sense. Myers is a bit of a tackling machine at times, likewise Sean Manor. But then you've got Mitch Duncan with 5. And I know Mitch Duncan copped a bit of stick. And even I think you can see at times he's literally going, I'm too old for this shit kind of thing at times. Like there was one time where he got caught chasing someone and you can just see him like, oh, God damn
Yeah.
it. Like I
This,
really don't.
isn't
was-
why I'm here. This isn't what I'm meant to do.
It was
Yeah.
it was like when you're at work and the boss walks in and you go, "Oh, I gotta look busy." It
Yeah.
was just like I'm putting this effort in. So I'm
God,
not going to
better
get in, but I'm
case.
doing something.
Yeah. But he actually did. I was impressed, like with a couple of his
Yeah.
pressure efforts during the game, not just his tackles, but I feel like he had a smother at one point that stopped a goal early in the game. He actually had 16 pressure acts, which was fifth most on our team, which I thought was fairly impressive for Mitch Duncan. So, like, it was a variety of contributors. It wasn't only the usual suspects. You know, like Ollie Henry, popped up with 4 tackles. Obviously, expect it from Atkins, but a real mix of players. And I just thought we absolutely suffocated them. And once you turn that screw early, they never recover. I think that's a real thing with teams of like once they think they've got no time, they do have no time. And I was really pleased that there was lots of times where they were having to kick long down the line. That to me says that big tick. And if anything, we did what they did to us last time. We moved the ball, control, but quickly. It was an unrelenting pace. And I think that in and of itself, chaps, applies pressure. It's not only what you do. You can apply pressure to a team not only when you don't have the ball and you're tackling and spoiling and chasing. You then turn the screw once it's in your possession. You're like, all right, your turn to run. And you're going to have to move and guard space. And we're just going to push and pull you apart and then pile on the goals. So, yeah, no, brilliant performance. Let's do our votes and then each sneak in one other player, just a quick one, who maybe didn't get votes but needs a mention. Sambo, who was your one? Let's do it that way. We'll go our 1 vote, our 2 vote, and then our 3 vote. We'll sort of,
Beautiful.
all do our 1, all do our 2, all do our 3. Sambo?
You're on mute.
Oh,
There we go. It would not register that I was clicking it then either. I had Brian Myers.
nice. All right. What did you like? Have you got sort of 20, 30 seconds of what you liked
Sure.
about
Sorry,
his
I
performance?
thought you wanted to rattle through them. I mean, it was pretty much the quintessential Brian Myers performance. Really, I thought. As we said, laid some tackles as someone here predicted he would. I feel like one of you, maybe it was you talking about Jake, thought he'd lay a couple of tackles. And like some of his just team efforts, the way he sets people up, and obviously it's a kind of maybe an over generalized part of his game at the moment, but his his score involvements and his ability to feed it through, and he's one of those players where I don't want to diss Patrick Dangerfield in any way because that Dangerfield was immense. Like he did some brilliant stuff and he set the tone really well. But as far as people talking about we won the game off Dangerfield's back, like I didn't view Dangerfield's game that way. Like if you had to like cut out some performances and say, would we win the game without these guys? I don't know that I'd have Dangerfield in there, but I think all these guys in my votes I would have in there, plus probably a couple of others.
Sure.
But yeah, no, like I just thought that was kind of like the perfect Grind Myers game, really, just kind of put on display everything he does. And he's I love the shot of him too celebrating Jeremy Cameron's goal. Like it's probably about a dozen examples in this game alone of the Cats sort of just getting around each other, supporting each other.
Love that.
Great.
Johnny, what about you? Who was your 1 vote?
My 1 vote, sort of and ahhing between 2 players, but I thought of this player on Thursday night after the game and during the game, and I've reverted back to him. And that's Oisin Mullen. I thought his effort to just completely take away any influence Jason Horne-Francis had on this game was non-existent. Like it was such a selfless and effective tagging role that he wasn't there to do anything special for himself. He wasn't there to make himself look like a brilliant disposal getter or interceptor or defender on a whole heap of players, but he was just there one job. That was take out Horn Francis of the game early and keep him out of it. And I think to half time he only had 8 or 7 disposals. And that just frustrated Jason Horn Francis. He ended up with 18 disposals, but he only had 9 effective. His kicking efficiency was really down. And as Jake said, he was the only one that was putting effort in throughout the entire game. And the only time he was getting disposals when Mullen wasn't on him. So I just thought the effort and the sacrifice Mullen did of his own gains in sort of disposals and awareness of what he can do was such a great selfless act towards the team and just to play a pretty major part in a big win.
He did even offensively have a couple of nice moments too. Like,
he did.
Give and goes where he'd run on. A couple of times I thought he was Bose or Manor, and then it was like, it would zoom in. You're like, oh no, that was Mullen. Peeled off
Mullen.
Horn Francis and went for a gallop.
Yeah, it was just such a good game, and just shows what he's capable of.
I was going to say, I think that if he puts it together, his physical skill set with an improved set of footy skills, he is going to be a serious problem for people, whether he's playing a defensive or an attacking role. Like, and that doesn't guarantee that that's going to happen, but that's the potential. Like he can be that game changer, and I think you hit the nail perfectly, John, on the head. He curbed Horn Francis's impact. People can still look at the stats and go, he had 18 touches, kicked a goal, 6 clearances. But as far as the impact of his game, it was like that second half down at Kardinia Park. Yeah. I gave my 1 vote to Zach Guthrie. I thought it was absolutely immense. Like, I think we made the joke on the night. Oh, good work, Tom Stewart. Good work, Tommy. There's just
I've been making that joke all year.
I know. That's right.
I'm sure we're not the only one.
He's just remarkable. He had 9 marks, 27 disposals, 19 of those were by foot. And if you have a look at his disposal efficiency, he went at 96.3% with 11 intercept possessions, which was game high or equal game high.
Effective disposals. He had 26 effective disposals out of his 27. That is, that is good. I did like the post-game stuff they were talking about, and they were talking about Zach Guthrie. They said it just shows how utterly amazing the Cats development program is. That Zach Guthrie, from where he started to where he is now, is just like day and night. And I was going, if he was at another club, I highly doubt he would be still playing the game. I was like, that's the Cats development cycle is pretty incredible. But also, Zach Guthrie put the hard work in to get to this position. It's not just Cats development, it's the player themselves.
Absolutely agree with that. Didn't have a clanger all night, Zach Guthrie. So no, he was spectacular. I'm going to start us off with our 2 votes just because I gave my 2 to Brian Myers. So I don't really need to say a lot, except just to add to what you said, Sam. Like, never call Brian Myers an average AFL footballer. If you're one of those media heads out there, because would he get a game at other clubs, or like, what did Geelong do? He's got a weird kicking action, like just the whole package of like what Brian Myers offers. Like, obviously, we all know the clever kicking, the clever ball use, bringing his teammates into the game. He's tough. He took a great contested mark at one point down on the wing. He's very willing, tackling, defending, and the other thing, which I think he features in heavily, so good with his quick hands. And there were so many Cats that were on the night. So he got my 2 votes.
How good was that goal outside of 50 by him off a couple of steps? Just absolute low bullet into the goal square.
Chisler.
Right. That was seriously delicious to watch. And it was all the young guys. I think it was Dempsey. It was Mana to Dempsey to Atkins to Myers to goal. I was like,
Don't-
oh,
Got a bit of Bruce
boy.
McAvaney coming out there with Larko,
Yes.
bit of the delicious action.
Delicious.
Johnny, snaking back to you. Who was your 2 votes?
Yep. My 2 votes. Max Holmes. Maximus Homicus. Just this is what we expect to see from Max Holmes. Like, this was an incredible game by Max Holmes, and I think this is his new near standard level. His kicking inside 50 looks much better. I can't remember how many meters gained, but it was a lot. 668 meters gained of 28 disposals. The absolute just pure arrogance of him to run from a kick in, outpace a Port player to 16 meters out from Port's goal before he kicks it. It's just his the absolute self-belief in himself is amazing, and the arrogance that he just knows he can outrun most players.
Not
fantastic
arrogance,
game.
confidence.
Confidence.
Got to make sure we
Confidence.
get those PR spins right. Okay.
Confidence mixed with a bit of arrogance.
No,
Right.
John. No arrogance. Humble.
Not arrogance,
Confidence.
just humble. Confident.
Culture.
The culture.
Sambo,
That's
where
Another
did your
player
2
from another
votes
club
go?
doing that would be arrogant.
That's true, Sam. I apologise. His confidence in himself, in his own ability.
Any of the Hawks that do that, absolutely arrogant.
Yeah.
My 2 votes
Gun
also went to Max Holmes. I think Johnny said a lot of it, but I would say the word that comes to my mind about Max Holmes' performance, and I think all year he's been doing it, but I think this is the one where he's really like sort of hit the nail on the head, is weapon. Like, he is such a weapon. Like, everyone's talking about how, they finally put him up played him as a midfielder, and like, a couple of people said, we question whether he could be tough enough to be a midfielder, and he's a legit midfielder, and they should never move him from there. And I went, he didn't play in the midfield the whole night. Anyone that anyone that's saying that was a full like 4-quarter midfield performance, I'm sure he did it. He started some bounces, but I mean, we just talked about that highlight of him running from a kick out. I don't think you're taking the kick out if you're a centre midfielder.
He definitely started in the midfield.
He did, and he went in there several times, but there was a lot of movement going on with the Cats lineup. And that's what really like made him feel like a weapon to me. It kind of just felt like he was moving around, and anywhere he went, he was lethal. He was absolutely lethal in the middle. He was lethal down the flanks. He went back and he was lethal. He was involved in, a lot of intercepts and sort of those passages of play to clear up like a messy, sloppy Port attack. He was an absolute weapon all over the ground, I thought. And I don't think he's necessarily played at this particular level every game all year, but I think you're right, John. I think this is kind of like, this is the gold standard for him and for any players like him now. That's the bar you want to be reaching more often than not.
And to think he's going to get better.
Comes time for the 3 vote getting performance. I don't think there'll be any surprises here. Sambo, we're snaking back from your direction, so lead us off. Who'd you have with your 3?
Sean Manor with the 3. Just like it was a real tough one for me, actually. Like, I think there's a lot of consensus here, but it was very tough for me between him and Holmes. Like, I did think that Holmes was so damaging all around the ground that, like, I think another day Holmes' performance is the kind of performance that I would probably wait a little more. Like, I might give the edge, but I think the story going on with Manor, like where he's come from, sort of where he's been plucked from, and like when he debuted, and there was kind of that like sense that he kind of got the shepherd's crook around the neck, yank out of the team to go back. Yeah, exactly. Go back and work on some stuff. And, we talked about on the pod, there was, just kind of like, he was obviously a very talented player. As soon as he came in, you went, oh, this guy's got some serious skills. But it was that cultural stuff where you went, I don't think he quite gets it yet. And so to watch that journey, and it's been a very rapid one. Been a real rapid one. Probably more. You've been more privy to it, Jake, with the amount of VFL that you watch. To watch his sort of the arc that he's gone on this season, and to come out with a performance like that, like it's not an overnight success, like everyone wants to say. He's a big game player, and you got to talk about the VFL finals he's played in and all that kind of stuff. Like he already is a very accomplished finals player, but it was a real superstar performance, I thought. Not a average performance, but also it was on top of being a superstar performance, he was still just doing the team stuff. Like, was it 13 score involvements that he ended up with?
Team high.
I think so, yeah.
Like, I mean, it's got to be game high, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Did Port have 13 scores?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Sorry, I thought Port didn't have 13 scores. Oh, yes, they did have 19.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Yeah, I thought he was instrumental, and going back to Dangerfield, like Dangerfield was really good. Dangerfield was, kind of as good as you could possibly expect him to be at this level, and had some of the other guys not done what they did, I'm sure we could have, he could have stepped up even further. But I feel like we won the game on the backs of guys like Sean Manor, and their quick thinking too. Like, I think it's undervalued. Again, talking about how bad Port was. It's undervalued how much pressure Port were putting on us when they were up and about still. And that when you watch the replays, the passages of handballs where we've barely even caught it. Often a lot of our handballs are more like a punch, a mid-air punch. Like it looks like the ball hasn't even landed in our hand yet by the time we're passing it on to avoid that tackle and just building it up. And Dempsey, Myers, Close, those guys were all involved in that. And I just thought, Shawnee Manor put in a performance for the ages, really. And if you can do that a couple more times for us, then I think we'll be looking pretty good.
I was just going to say, Port had 6 of the top 10 for pressure acts on the ground. So that does speak to what you're talking about. And I think it's true. It's like at times when Geelong are in that mood and in that vein of form, it's like watching a high wire, like circus act, where you're just biting your fingernails at times and somehow the chain of handballs works and we're off and away and kicking another goal. And it's incredible to watch. I mean, that is, if you could take that game and bottle the essence of it, that is what you talk about when you say we are Geelong, the greatest team of all. That's what you're talking about when you say we are Geelong. That's it in a nutshell. It's that.
Yep.
It's the spirit of that game. I love it. I think when personally, and I'm biased, but when Geelong play it, that's the beautiful game. That's the AFL becoming the beautiful game. Like it's just a flawless work of beauty. To me, the way the Cats they just sense it and go in the flow. And Johnny, were you in the same boat as Sambo? Was it 3 votes to Sean Manor for you?
Most definitely. Sean Manor was just electric, immense, fantastic. To think he was pick 36, VFL grand finalist, kick 6, and now he's a Geelong Cats preliminary finalist, gonna get ready for a massive game. And the Cats recruiting just know what they're doing, just know where to find these absolute superstars. And again, it's not just the Cats themselves finding these players and going out there and going, go play the game. How you do? It's also the players putting in the hard work, and Sean Manor had to put in a lot of hard work to get back into this team, and how that hard work has paid off, because since then has not let go, and I'm glad he hasn't. He's such an integral part of this team now. Like his awareness of where the ball is, the goal sense, marking, bring the team in, doing everything you expect a Cats player to do. He's doing top shelf, and just an absolute superstar of this team. Not bad for an average player.
Yeah, not bad for the former Werribee Tiger. I went Sean Manor, 3 votes as well. I did, as you were saying, Sam, I went back and forwards over a few different efforts, but what I love about Sean Manor is he has come in, and this is the value of picking up players. everyone talks about bringing, the flashy, the 18-year-old at the top of the draft or this player. Let's go and get, the 26-year-old from the VFL. Maybe you look at him and go, oh, it's kind of a strange body type, sort of a little bit short and maybe short-limbed, and you can sort of look at him, and I've joked sometimes that he looks like the squashed Jeremy Cameron. If you stretched Sean Manor out, they've actually got they would have a similar body type, but they don't. But what I love about him is, you see moments sometimes, Shannon Neal takes a mark, right, over the top, and he thinks about handballing it to Jeremy Cameron in the square. He doesn't ultimately. He goes back. Shannon Neal takes a big mark, and you see him going, will I pass it off, or will I, there's nerves about it. Sean Manor wants the footy, and he doesn't just want it in the junk time moments. He wants it in the biggest spots, in the most important games. He wants it in his hands and on his boot. And what I absolutely loved was his decision-making of when to give it off to a teammate and when to kick it. He kicks 3 goals and he has 3 goal assists. And I just go back, like, that goal he kicked, he misses the set shot on the outside of the boot in the pocket. Literally a couple of minutes later, it comes back to him from open play, the same spot. He gets the second chance. And he goes, bang, I'm nailing it this time. I'm not going to miss it a second time. And like, that to me is so valuable, that he invites the big moment to come to him. And this isn't just like, hey, we're just going to stick in a bit of a jobber who can do a role for us. Like, we've gone and plucked out a player who in his first final at AFL level, we've voted him as our best on ground.
Yeah.
And I just thought he was absolutely magnificent. I'm so happy for him. I just think about some of these players who maybe have spent some times going, shit, I thought I was going to be an AFL footballer and it's probably not going to happen. And then you get the opportunity. And I just think it's the right kind of energy to have around this team. I think players like him who are 26 and 27, they've lived more life. So yeah, going over to a qualifying final feels big, but it's not as big as all the other stuff you've experienced by that stage. The financial pressures and stresses of life, the dream might not happen for me. And then you get to, and it's suddenly like, this is so fun. And I'm just so happy for him. And I'm happy for Lawson Humphries. And it's just incredible. And I thought he was absolutely magnificent. The other goal he got was the one, I think it was tapped straight down to him. He seized it out of the ruck and just went whooshka on his right boot. Curling it back was lovely. And I'll just cap it off and say, remember the goal against Freo. Game on the line. Yeah. He gets it to Close. Close gets it back to him, and Sean Manor goes, bang, I'm ending it. I'm calling game. So, very excited about what he's done this season and what he can be in future. I reckon we've run out of time here, chaps, to do extra players on the public part. We've gone well over an hour, so we'll tuck into some extra player thoughts on the Patreon part of the show. But thanks so much to everyone for watching, for listening. If you'd be so kind and hit that subscribe button, I think it's probably either above Sam's head or below Sam's mic, somewhere there. There'll be a subscribe button. So hit that for us. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. If you're on a podcast app, chuck us a 5-star rating. We'd very much appreciate that. We'll be back soon with more episodes. There'll be stuff on the Hoops Crew Media Network during the wait for the prelim. Obviously, an AFLW preview coming up in a few days. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. And Colin will play us out with the halftime horse this time, Colin.
Yep.
Keeps forgetting. Until next time, go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
You get your cordial, you get your lollies, a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely. So you get your cordial, you get your lollies, a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely.
That's what halftime's about.